I didn't even think about it.
It's not even on. How's that, right?
Lies.
It literally isn't.
Hi guys, my name is Keish Laquilas with LAER Realty Partners, and I'm the Director of Marketing and Events. And today we're going to be talking about buyer lead generations and turning a fling into a relationship. So, the main purpose of creating clients and making sure that they are loyal is to create rapport with them. So, a way to do that, if you look through their thing here, the first tip is spend more time building your business through friends, family, acquaintances. You guys know so many people nowadays, especially through Facebook and social media and stuff like that. You can reach a lot more people with your sphere and your marketing and stuff like that. So just get personal. Nowadays, everyone's very, don't want to talk to humans. They just want to be online, behind the screen. So a lot of agents that are afraid of picking up the phone, it affects them, because even though we're so separated by social media, people still want to feel that connection. So if you care and show that you care, or show that you're interested in your clients, they're more likely to trust you, see you as a professional, and let them guide you, let you guide them through the process. So stop trying to convince strangers. It's a little harder to convince a stranger to like you. You guys know a lot of people already. Step 2 is the highest income earners in real estate don't work buyers. They work with sellers. They're listing agents, and the buyers come to them anyways. But if you have the listing to share, you're automatically going to get both sides of the both sides of the transaction. So the more listings you have, the better chance you are, the more that you can show off your talents in the real estate world. So a lot of high income earners in real estate don't work with buyers. Step 3. This is a funny one because I still see a lot of agents doing this. They have really old photographs on their business cards or on their sign writers, and you don't want to disappoint your clients that you've never met when you meet them in person. So don't catfish your customers. They see this perfect, beautiful profile online. And a lot of people do it, and I understand, you want to put your best features forward online, but not so different that in real life you're like, who are you? So that's a big thing. A lot of people still do it, and it drives me crazy, but it happens. So tip 4, what is rapport? So a close and harmonious relationship in which the people or groups concerned understand each other's feelings or ideas and communicate well. So this is something that a lot of agents must learn at an early stage, is to listen, and, figure out ways that, because when someone speaks to you, they don't always tell you exactly what they mean. So if you understand that, they have children, and it's so important for their children to be, in the schools or in a backyard or a big room, something that's really catered to them, a seller or a buyer is going to talk about that more than anything else in the whole conversation. So if they focus on one specific thing that they are, most interested in or must have, be sure to listen to that, show them that you are giving them, repeat that exactly what they're saying, so they hear that you're repeating it and they understand that that's what you're listening to. So sometimes they'll say something and you repeat it back to them and they're like, wait, but that's not what I mean. So always repeat it back to them, and then if that's not what they meant, they'll rephrase and say, no, this is exactly what I mean. So that's a big thing, is always listen. To be great lead converters, we must be persistent. And this is something that I even struggle with. It's just, if they're not communicating back with you, it's kind of tough to continue to reach out to them over and over again. But if sometimes it just takes a while for them to be like, all right, well, this person really cares that I'm interested in a house. They want to talk to me. I'm going to finally get back to them. I'm telling you, people are afraid of communication. it's so easy nowadays to just communicate through Facebook, text message, everything, but they're still afraid to just make that first, contact. So they think a computer just going to tell them what's going on, and then they realize, oh my God, there's a human behind there that's actually talking to me. So it takes a while. Consistent is key. Yes.
So can you speak to that for a minute? Sometimes it does matter what age the client is, the way you communicate. So
absolutely.
How do you find that out in the beginning if they prefer texting or don't have the computer or whatever?
My biggest thing is I tend to call, email, text, and then I start searching them like a stalker. I'll try to find them on Facebook. I'll try to find them on Instagram. I try to get as much information as I can. And if I do find them on Facebook or social media, I friend request them. I send them an inbox message, a direct message through Facebook. And I just go that way. So if I realize that they're on the younger side of the demographic, I'll continue with text messages or through social media. If it's on the older side, I try to give them a call again a few times a day and see if they answer that way. So a lot of people are big on text right now. Yeah.
What about, do you knock?
Well, for buyers, not necessarily you wouldn't know their address. No. So I would definitely continue to figure out how much information you can get from social media, because you would be surprised if they put their whole lives out there. So you would be able to get a lot of information from social media. I would definitely go through that way. But text message, email, and phone calls, and then stalk them on Facebook. It's the easiest way. And sometimes they're doing it to you too. So make sure that your social medias are, well intact. They're updated constantly. That shows your professionalism. Your marketing is great. So they want to know that you know what you're talking about, because they do a lot of research before they even reach us. So, we need to provide them something that they can't just look up. Next slide here, why rapport matters. So when we have rapport, we feel comfortable, we feel safe and at ease, we talk openly and freely about difficult topics, consider appropriately offered advice, feel understood, feel positively valued and respect, and can explore difficult issues and ask more difficult questions. So I have clients that are younger than me right now that are buying a house, and they have no clue about the process. So they're basically asking me every question in the book that you don't even think of as a real estate agent. They want to know everything about a house, everything about the process, what they should do, what I recommend. So for me, that makes me feel good that they trust me enough to ask me all of these questions. And then there's always going to be people that are on their toes, and those are the ones that you're going to have to work a little harder for. So I had a client that she was the easiest client I ever had. She did everything right off the bat. She's a bookworm, so she just did everything already right up front. All I had to do was show her the house, and she was well prepared with the lender. She did everything behind the scenes with the lender. It's usually me chasing everybody to make sure everything was done. She was ahead of my game, and I'm like, oh my God, I need to make sure that I'm ahead of her now. So it was like a little competition between me and her because she was so good and well educated. So I'm like, oh my God, I need to really step up my game. So luckily she was a bookworm, and she didn't really know things about the actual house, like how things worked or how, at one point she asked, well, how do I get somebody to, find a nail? And then I'm like, well, I have a nail finder. And, I delivered it to her. Like, just the tiniest things matter to them, and she will be a client forever. So it's just something that they feel. The more you care, the more you share, show that you care, the tiniest, smallest gestures go a long way.
And even with the first-time buyer, you were talking about explaining the steps to them. Sometimes it's the terminology that we take for granted, and they're like, what does that even mean?
Yeah. So I usually try to read my clients. Like, if they're, like, glazed over, like, oh, my God, I have no idea what she's saying, I kind of say, do you understand what I'm saying? And if they're like, yeah, no. I'm like, all right, so I'll break it down for them. I have like a little buyer presentation that I always do, and I, say, well, this is what this is, and this is what you're gonna need to do in order for that to happen. And then I'll break it down even further and say, well, this is what, what happens first. This is why it's happening. And then you go to the next step. That's why that's happening. And you're going to be there. Whoever's going to be there. So I kind of explain who and what is happening before it happens. So that way they feel a little more comfortable moving forward. So, I mean, there's agents, and you'd be surprised to how little people actually know about the process. Like, they don't know anything at all, and they're just going in blind. They say, oh, I got a pre-approval, let's go buy a house, and they're looking at like the pretty stuff in the house instead of anything that's going wrong. So, and then when there is something going wrong, they're like, well, how do you fix that? So it's a big deal. They don't know how much of a big step it really is until they're actually in the process. In lead conversion, speed matters. Rapport matters most, but speed matters first. A recent Realtor.com survey says that if you haven't responded within 15 minutes, you've lost a lead. I want to say that it's even less than 15 minutes, because nowadays they just want answers right away. So 15 minutes is way too long. And there's other people trying to get to them as well. So whoever's the fastest and the most consistent and the way they speak to them. So if someone texts them, or even if you can't text them, you're doing something, you're showing a house, you get a lead, and you just can't speak to them that minute, text them right away and say, I'll be right with you, I'm showing a house. Or, like, they'll appreciate that. Like, oh, okay, I reached someone, they're going to give me a call back. They're less likely to go to someone else that took an hour or whatever it was to respond. So I always say, oh, I'll text you right back, I'm in a meeting or whatever it is, and they're pretty, they'll wait. Yeah. I give them a time frame as to when I'm going to call them back. So always, speed matters first, and then you start talking to them and listening. Yeah.
What about I know people have done this, to have the voicemail in place that says,
I actually have that.
I'm sorry I'm on the phone right now, but when it's your turn, I'll give you the same special, how do you say it?
So mine is more of a set time. Basically, I'll say, you've reached me, I'm either on the phone on the other line or at a showing. I'll give you a call back with a certain amount of time. So my time frame is usually between 10 and 11. I'll give you a call back. And then another 4 to 5 in the afternoon. So if I'm in a meeting or if I know I'm a full day, that's my voicemail. I'll give you a call back within these time frames.
AM.
Yes, yeah. And I text them anyways. So if I'm getting a phone call, you know how you can, ignore it and say I'm on the other line or something? I do that as well. So it's always a text back. I'll give you a call back. So at least call, text, email right away. Again, if you guys are busy, just, send an email, text, whatever it is. Make sure that you reach out to them as soon as you can. So usually they're calling about a home. So before answering any house questions, get more information. Nudge them for a meeting. The next slide here shows you the questions that you can ask here. So it says, how can I help you? Are you familiar with the area? How did you decide on the area? What are you looking for in a home? How did you decide on price range? So that's a big question. How did you decide on price range? Because that will either tell you if they've been pre-approved or they're just looking. Like, this is what I think I would be qualified for.
You can just ask them, are you pre-approved?
Yes.
To see how serious
yeah. So a lot of people will be like, oh yeah, well I wanted to see that house. So I had a lead come in the other day that, he's like, I want to see this other house. And I'm like, okay. I gave him the price, and he's like, okay. And I'm like, have you been pre-approved? And he's like, well, I haven't talked to a bank yet. And I'm like, do you realize that this is a substantial amount of money? We need to know if you're pre-approved yet, so that way we can move forward. Because and then I say, the market is really busy right now. You want to have that pre-approval in place so you can put an offer in as soon as possible and not wait for a lender to do that. Go ahead.
How afraid do you feel that agents are where they show a house knowing that the buyer doesn't have a pre-approval, and the damage that it does to the market, our market, meaning us as agents.
Well, there's always going to be newbie agents that take out buyers without pre-approvals. They're newbies. They weren't taught better. I mean, it happens. I did it when I was first starting, and it does take you a little courage to ask them, but it's just something that you have to do, or you're wasting your time. So you're showing them you're showing them houses, and then they finally are like, okay, we're gonna go to a lender, and then they're not qualified. So now you've showed them all these beautiful houses out of their price range, and it's disappointing to you and to them. So now you're the bad guy because you showed them all these beautiful houses and nothing compares to what they're approved for. So it just hurts everybody.
You don't go out.
I do not go out anymore.
You do not go out.
No.
Okay.
I had to learn the hard way, but, everyone has to go through their learning phases. But absolutely, it's a waste of your time, it's a waste of their time, and you're going to look bad, and they're going to feel bad. So it's just avoid it at all costs. So more questions. The big one that a lot of people still do not ask is, are you currently working with an agent in the search of your home? Is he or she local? So a lot of people will say no, even though they are.
Yeah. And
it's a tough one because you won't know until it happens to you. But I usually try to figure out. Sometimes they don't even realize they're working with someone else. So what I usually do is I don't say, are you working with an agent? I say, are you getting listings from somebody else? And they'll be like, oh yeah, I am. And they don't realize that is their gateway to working with you. So I'm like, okay, so who is that person that's sending you those emails? Because you must have had a conversation with them. So then if they say, oh yeah, I'm getting emails from this so-and-so person, I'm like, okay, well, have you signed a contract with them to sell, to see houses? And they'll be like, oh no, we didn't sign any houses or anything. So at that point, I usually say, okay, well, I can send you homes too, but we need to meet in person so I can go over the buyer process. So I have my presentation that I do that goes through the entire process of what's going on. And once they're in front of you, they're more likely to stay with you. Because a lot of people just, get a lead, they put them on MLS and say, call me when you find a house.
How difficult do you find it to get a meeting with the lead?
It's a little difficult, but I find it that the people that know nothing, it's really easier to get them in. Okay. I try not to give them too much in advance. I'll give them like little things like, oh, here's something that you... So I have a sheet that I hand out that says all of the money that they would need for closing and, all of the miscellaneous things that they don't even tell you about. So home inspection, insurance binder, just stuff that no one tells you as a buyer that this is all out of pocket before you even get the loan. So they're like, oh, okay. So now they're like, okay, well, she gave me information. She gave me valuable information that I didn't know. What else does she know that I don't know? So they usually, meet up. And it's really great because the buyer presentation, it basically goes through the whole thing, and then it asks them very personal questions, a checklist of what they want, what is most important to them, and it kind of makes them think like, okay, this is real. What do I really need? What do I really want? And where do I want to be? So I think it puts them in a better position to be a better client for you and themselves. It makes it a little easier for you. But yes, definitely make sure that they don't have a agent on the side. Again, they don't like meeting in person. But it's hard to get them there. So when do you end up finding the home of your dreams? Do you foresee that you would be writing an offer with that agent if they said that they were talking to, if somebody else was giving them the leads? So that's a good question, because then they'll be like, oh, well, I don't even know this person. They just send me leads, And you're the one that's actually talking to them, asking them more questions about what's going on. So asking that question is very important to determine whether or not you're wasting your time right now or if they're willing to, be your client. So this is a great thing to say here. I'm sorry this wasn't explained to you. So this kind of makes the other agent look like a schmuck that they didn't, they didn't go through the process. So one of the things I do when I'm working with buyers is I set up a time to meet with them to explain the entire process. Don't worry, it's not your fault. So that I'm sorry this wasn't explained to you is like, oh my God, someone was supposed to tell me something and they didn't? How could they? So it makes you look very good in their eyes. Like, oh, they're helping me.
I think that's a really good point, because two things that you said. One was how you explained the money that they need.
Yes.
And the other thing was explaining what's involved in even putting an offer together. Sometimes they've just looked in Zillow or Realtor.com, found a house, and they think, oh, this is a game on a Sunday afternoon, and they don't realize all that's involved. And here you are, again, you're giving your value proposition by saying, I'm here to help you through this and to protect you, not just treat this casually.
Yeah.
So I think, more buyers are getting younger and they're savvy, but they think that buying a house is like opening an app.
Yeah.
And it's not like that. We have value.
Yeah, absolutely.
We need to show our value.
They don't understand. Yeah. They don't know what they don't know. And that's the biggest thing. They think they know everything because they could just Google whatever it is. But there's, tricks and, side deals and a whole bunch of negotiations that they have no idea that we do. And sometimes we're trying to put out fires that they have no idea is happening, They just don't know what we actually do. So it's good to explain the process and show them exactly what you would be doing. And I treat every client as if I was the one buying the house. So I get emotional or I get upset if something's not going right for my clients. I'm very protective over that. So another thing is, by the way, if your situation with that agent changes, I'm here and happy to ask questions. So that's, if they said that they were working with somebody else, you could always offer them help. So then build rapport. So say they didn't have the agent. Have you spoken to a lender you feel good about? So that's another good question is, have you spoken to a lender you feel good about? So I usually say, well, your lender should have done this, this, and this. They should have explained to you the process. They should have explained to you that, yes, you're pre-approved for this much, but where are you comfortable? I always use the term, you don't want to be house broke just because you bought a home that was out of your means. Yes, you're approved for this high number, but they don't consider all your other bills that you have, anything else that you have to pay for. So that's a big one there. And I usually tell them, here's what a good lender would do. And then if they said, well, my lender didn't do that, or I did it online, or, things like that, I usually say, okay, well, do you mind getting a second opinion and the royal treatment of what you should have gotten from a lender, and how it goes that way. And always have a team. You always should have a lender you always go to, or a home inspector that you recommend. It's just, it makes you look more professional, more put together, more experienced. And then empower them. So give them some information about the house. They want to know the basics. They usually want to know, if they haven't already known about the price, they'll probably ask, is it on gas or oil? That's a big one around here. Sometimes they don't know the price, so just, let them know about the price. And, say, there's a lot more information on the home that I want to share with you that's not online. And they're like, okay. Curiosity always there. Like, what else do you want to give me? So it's more, that's a way to get them in for the meeting as well. So make them feel safe. Use your knowledge to make them feel like they have an advocate, someone who will protect them. So again, saying that, I'm sorry this wasn't explained to you, or a good lender would do this and this. They're like, okay, this person knows what they're talking about. And I usually say, I'm here to help you and make sure that you get where you want to be and nothing bad happens or nothing goes wrong. So, I always make sure that I'm like, I take care of my clients. I want to make sure that their house is everything that they wanted it to be and that they're happy with me. That's, that's how I make my business grow, is word of mouth and people, enjoying the fact that I care just as much as they would. So I've had instances where my client did something that they shouldn't have done, and I have to come in and rescue them. Like, okay, now we're going to do this and turn it around and save the deal. And they're like, oh my God, they're a lot more grateful for you. So you just show that you care and that you protect them. You're there for a reason. So prove your value. What most buyers want from real estate agents to help finding the right home to purchase. So it says 55% of that. People want that. And then the rest, you know, it goes to help with the price and negotiations, help negotiating the terms of the sale. A lot of people don't even know that you can negotiate other things when you're buying a home. Like you can negotiate the hot tub in the backyard or the extra fridge or whatever it is. You know, anything that is in the home, you can negotiate, and they just don't know that.
Or whether or not to include closing costs,
yes, closing
which can
costs.
be a real advantage to them if
yes.
they're short on money in the beginning.
So a lot of people don't know. That's a big one, closing costs, because a lot of new buyers, they don't have a lot of money to spend. So if they can get the closing costs included from the seller, and you are the one that let them know about that, you know, you look even better in their eyes as well. You know, determine what comparable homes we're selling for, help with paperwork, help determining how much a home buyer can afford, and help finding and arranging financing. So a lot of people will just contact me and say, you know, I see you selling a lot of houses. What do we do in order to buy? Like, we don't know nothing. So I usually, you know, send them a brief little packet of what I would actually present in real life, and, you know, say, when you're ready, this is what it is. And their main questions are, what's my credit score have to be? How much money do I need? And what do I do next? So I usually say, well, talk to a lender first, find out where your credit score is, and you'd be surprised whether or not you're ready to go. And then if your credit is in a good position, then all you have to worry about is making sure you have the down payment money to go forward. And then some people say, well, I have money saved, but I don't know how my credit is. So I'm like, well, how are you going to know if you don't qualify, if you don't just you know, apply for the loan? So I had a client that had money saved. She just was scared to pull the trigger. And I'm like, all you got to do is just give them your information. They'll do a credit check, and they'll tell you where you need to be. And if there is issues on your credit check, they'll tell you what you need to do to fix it. And then they'll give you a time frame as to where you want it, you know, how long you can buy a house. So they did that to one of my clients, and she was ready to go. She didn't even need to wait. She was like, oh, I'm sitting here waiting for no reason when I could have just bought already. My credit score was good enough. So we bought in a couple months. So it was just, they just don't know what the process takes and how easy it is.
Can we go back to what you just said about the closing costs? Nowadays, the bankers are supposed to tell the people up front all of the costs that are involved in a closing. So when you're meeting with them, it's not only telling them the escrow money, but say, has the banker gone over these numbers? And when, the closing costs can be anywhere from $5,000 to $12,000. And if you can negotiate that in an offer, again, you look like the hero, but the point of it isn't that you're the hero, it's that you're helping to represent them.
Yes.
And if you can save them from having to come up with that extra $5,000 by getting the seller to credit it, then you've helped it make a much smoother transaction for them.
Yes, exactly. Any which way that you can help them. So use comfort words, another big, easy one. No problem, no rush, whenever you're ready. I mean, sometimes if you're too pushy, they'll back off and be like, okay, I don't know if I really want to work with this person. So they'll be like, oh, I'm so sorry I didn't call you, or so sorry I didn't answer, or whatever. I'm like, oh, no problem, life is life, you're busy, it happens. I just want to make sure that you had everything that you wanted, or if you needed anything else. Just be a service, anything you need, I'm here to help you. Listen and respond. So as soon as you have a client, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say, go ahead, because I brought these.
Oh yes, yeah. So mine is a little different from here, but it basically asks a lot of questions about the same thing. So you're basically saying exactly what you want, And this is something I would do in person as well. I wouldn't do this over the phone. I mean, I would get as much information as I can over the phone, but I want to push for that person-to-person meeting. So get their information, phone number, email, ask them what's the best way to contact them. They'll appreciate that, because some people don't even open up their emails. They're just like, junk mail. And then a lot of people don't want to be talked to over the phone. So if their preferred thing is text, then you do text. So make sure you write that. Then you ask them, okay, so is there someone else that's going to be going on the loan with you? Is there someone else that's going to be making the decisions with you? There's always two parties, and that can get a little difficult if they can't agree on what they want. So that's a whole nother project. You got to kind of be the mediator for them and say, this is your price range. Someone is going to have to compromise, So there's always challenges, and sometimes you turn into their venting party. And they're psychiatrists a little bit, and it just happens. You have to wear a few different hats, but definitely get as much information as you can, but push for that in-person meeting. Ask them what they're doing now. Are they renting right now? Are they at their parents' home right now? What's their current situation, and why are they deciding to buy now? That will give you more information and more guidance as to how fast they want to move, or how slowly, or if they have time to, find exactly what they're looking for. So engage and connect. Ask other questions, like I said. Ask them their current situation, what's going on, find them on Facebook, stalk them a little bit. Try to find things that you can relate to, so you can have something more to talk about to create more rapport. That's a big one for social media. And then set up a meeting. First meeting should be a buyer presentation or a more casual meeting for coffee where you can explain the process in detail. Sometimes people are less intimidated if it's in a casual setting, so that's another way to go about it. And then some people just want to feel that professionalism, so you do it in the office. So it's either way, you have to read your clients and kind of see exactly what they want. Okay, so there's another way that you can kind of bribe them to meet you in person. Tell them you have a book that gives you a list of secret inventory, free something, something that is going to, get them in there and be like, oh, I should have that. Maybe I should meet them. So we have Stacy's book, The 7 Secrets to Hiring a Lion. We have secret inventory. So this is all of the inventories we have on our internal website on Jostle, all the coming soon website listings. That's a way to say, oh, well, I could ask my 400 Lion agents of, what's going on in that market to see if something new is coming, and I can send you it before it even hits the market. We have secret inventory because it's not out there yet. We know before it goes out there. And they love that. They want to make sure that they get something before anybody else does, and that's a big thing. And then free something, if you guys have, I don't even know what, free buyer presentation, free something. Like, if it's a seller's agent, a seller, free CMA is automatically anyways, but just saying it's free, they're like, oh, okay. Just intrigues them a little bit more. It's all about the words and the way you say it. And this is a big one. A lot of people do not realize that our business is 24/7. They think that, or they overthink, and then they think that we do work 24/7 at all hours of the day. So you gotta, especially for people that have kids or schedules with school and stuff like that, make sure that you're upfront about it so you can still have a life and have a job. So my thing is, I have 3 children. I pretty much work all day long, every day. I'm just that type of person that wants to just get it done as soon as I get it. So it's a little hard for me to just stop.
Yes,
but,
we know.
but it's just, I like my job enough that I don't feel like it's work. So it doesn't really bother me, but I know when my kids are home, I gotta pay attention to my kids. So I'm a little different with how I handle work. I, put it to the side and say, I'll give you a call in a little bit. But just make sure that they know, it's not a 9 to 5 type of thing. Sometimes they'll, I've had an incident when someone called somebody else and said, oh, I thought you weren't working today. And I'm like, well, why would you think that? And it was my mistake. I wasn't clear as to, I work every day, all day long. You can call me whenever you like. So they're like, all right, well, I didn't know that. So they just assume, they just assume that you guys have a 9-to-5 job and whatever. It's, you got to be clear. So always make sure you tell them this is 24 hours a day. You guys are always there to help them. It's just a text or a message or whatever away, and you're always there. So, and if you're going on vacation, stuff like that, just make sure that they know. Some people don't really care, and some people get really upset that you're away. Or as soon as you go away, they want to see every house in the neighborhood, and it's like, it's always that way. Follow up. Send them a thank you note, a thank you email. If you have BombBomb, you can send them a thank you email / video in it. You can send them a link to client testimonials. I have mine on my website, so I just send them a link to my website's thing. And then include a package about your services. So if you haven't done this yet, I usually send them, it's part of my buyer presentation, but I just send them snippets of what's in there so they can see what's coming. And I just tell them why I'm there for them. Explain exactly why I'm there and what I'm going to be doing for them. Okay, so setting them up on MLS. Some say yes and some say no, and then MLS is their access key to work around us. I personally put them on MLS, but I get an email every morning to see what they got in the morning. And then I follow up with them throughout the day. Say, hey, did you see this house that I sent you this morning? Some agents say no because then they're already getting the houses and then they can just do their own research, which I understand, but it's more work for you to send them the listings than automatically on MLS. Mm-hmm. So I know an agent in our Drake office that still manually emails them every morning. And I'm like, that's just a lot of time you're wasting when you can just automatically do it. And she chooses the houses. So what if they changed their mind and saw something else that they didn't tell you they were looking for?
Freedom.
They want that. They want to know everything's on the market. So it's just easier, in my opinion. And if they're loyal clients and you're doing everything you're supposed to be doing, they're going to go to you. And if they don't, well, then you don't want to work with them anyways.
Absolutely.
So it's in my opinion, I would always put them on MLS. And you could watch exactly how many times they've been on MLS and what they've been looking at. So you can see the last time they were online to check. So every day I'll get an email saying this person got these bunch of listings that, match them. And then I'll go through them and say, hey, did you check out? And I'll pick out the best one in the group. And I'm like, did you see that one yet? And they'll be like, oh yeah, I was on it this morning, which I already knew they were on. And, it's another conversation that they could have. And I'm like, okay, well, do you like it? Do you want to see it? Just more conversation, more rapport. They're talking to you more, and they feel more comfortable with you. So, drip campaign. Email drip campaigns on LAER Marketing Center or Boston Logic. You can add to your B list, set up follow-up calendars, and a minimum of 5 follow-ups. So we have a bunch of different ways that you can put them in an email drip campaign. You can put them on the Boston Logic website if you have the website. And we have Imprev, the LAER marketing portal. So I put all of them on that one just because it has like the holidays and the monthly dates and all that stuff. So that one's just really easy. And then the Boston Logic also has like a buyer one, and it kind of goes through the process and gives them like tips and little things that they would need. Just adds to your value as well and keeps up with your appearance. You're always showing up around them. And then if they're kind of like dead leads, they're just not responding, follow up. You put it on your calendar, follow up 5 times in that first week that you get them. They say it usually takes 7 touches before they respond or, engage with you. So if they're not responding right away, it's just going to take them a little longer. They're warming up to you to see, okay, well, they're just doing that because I just came in as a lead. And then I wasn't really ready for someone to talk to me. Mm-hmm. So just keep going, and they're like, all right, well, this person is really interested in helping me. So yeah, when leads don't respond, you text them, you call them 3 to 5 times a week in that first week. You call on a Saturday afternoon because you'll catch them off guard. Like, oh, someone's calling me on a weekend. And keep going until they tell you to stop. So this is a little difficult for me personally, just because I feel like I'm being annoying, but it works. So I have to just get over that myself, and a lot of people feel the same way, is that you're calling them, they're not answering, they must not talk to me. And something I realized with my children and my little sister, when they want to get a hold of you, they continue to call you until you answer. So I'm like, oh, my kids, don't stop calling me. And it's just, they don't even realize that they're being annoying, but it gets me to answer the phone, like, what do you want? So it's just consistency, and I just have to make sure that I'm, I get over that feeling of being annoying. And then once they tell you to stop, then like, okay, I was annoying. But, now you don't want to work with them anyways because, they weren't interested in your help, So, be annoying. Okay. And then type out your questions. This is easy. Have a script. Carry them with you so you're always ready for when the next lead comes. I feel like I used to ask the basics, where, when, how much, and how your timeline. But I feel like those are so basic that everybody else is asking. So I go further. Say, why are you moving now? What made you decide? And they'll start rambling about, well, my landlord, blah, 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 or I'm pregnant, I'm having more kids, whatever it is, or I can't have a dog in my rental, stuff like that. And then you're like, okay, well, they must need this in the following house, or they're looking for that. So it just gets more questions out, more information to you, and it shows that you care.
The time frames.
Yeah, the time frame is
urgency.
big. Yeah. So mine was, I had a client that needed to sell right away, and she needed to buy right away. So she was moving out of state for a job, and she's like, I have a week to sell this and find something else in another state. And I'm like, oh my God. So I found another agent that was working with her. She flew down, and I got her house ready to sell up here. And I'm like, just go down. By the time you come back, your house will be on the market already. So, and I told the other agent in the other state, I'm like, she needs to buy and she needs to sell right away. So those are the best kinds you want anyways. A quick sale and you're out of there. Wow. So, and they understand the urgency because it's usually their job. And, they don't want to mess up their job situation. So, like, whatever you need us to do, we'll do it. And they're pretty easy that way. So, I just be prepared. They're pretty quick sometimes. And then, do you guys have any questions about the buying process and the buyer lead generation? No?
I had questions throughout.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's very helpful.